You're supposed to not be the politician, remember? I understand.
I'm going to call the January 16th, 2024 regular scheduled board meeting of the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners to order. I want to ask Commissioner Perkins to lead us in the prayer, Commissioner Mobley lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Let us pray. God, our Father in heaven, we come, dear God. Thank you for how you have truly blessed us and kept us, dear God. We thank you for the rain that fell today, dear God. We thank you, dear God, for saturating the grounds. And we thank you, God, for what you've done and doing right now. We pray, God, for our country, dear God, that you look on our leadership. God, send a correction, send a stirring in them, oh God. And Father, we pray that you continue to look upon this board, dear God. Guide our hearts, our minds, dear God, to do the things that you have set forth for us to do, dear God, to make this county better, dear God. And God, we give you praise and glory. In Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item number 1 on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the December 28, 2023 special meeting, January 2nd, 2024 regular meeting, and the January 5th, 2024 special meeting. Any questions, comments, concerns, omissions, errors?
Motion to approve, Chairman.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner White, a second by, is that Perkins?
Yes, sir.
Okay, second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Before we start on the public concerns and comments, I just want to let the public hear that may be willing to speak or wishing to speak on the items that are going to be moved from the consent to the general and any others that y'all may want to add. But I have item number 8, item number 9, and item number 10 are being moved to general business for discussion. Anybody have any to add to that? No. All right, seeing none. Those 3 items are moved to general business, and then we will move to public concerns and comments. Anyone wishing, or from the public, wishing to speak? All right. Seeing none, we will move along to the consent agenda. So on the consent agenda, we will be asking for any questions or comments on items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 13, or 11, 12, 13, 14.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hale.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hale, a second by Commissioner White. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. We will come back to those 3 items that are moved. We will move to the constitutional officers items. Any constitutional officers have any items to discuss? Seeing none. Staff. Any staff have any items to discuss? Mr. Fury, welcome.
It's been a minute since I've been up here, so I figured out.
Just had a couple things just to share and kind of update. I'll run through quick, though. Just mentioned soccer's underway, 450 kids. So wow. If you get a chance, do not go on a Saturday morning. You might not get out of there. We got 15, 18 baseball and softball tournaments on the books from now and through the summer, fall. For programs, let's see, springs, obviously the river's coming up pretty fast and pretty high. So it looks like Little River will probably have to end up closing the next day or two. Once it gets to where you can't cross the road to get into the parking lot, we generally close that down. Cave divers can still dive, obviously, but if you can't get in and out. So we'll see how long it takes for it to crest and come down. Just keep in mind, Royal, we're working on a gatehouse that we did through the budget workshops to start charging there. So we're working on getting all the logistics. And come April 1st, we'll be looking at charging an entry fee there like we did at Little River. And anticipate the same success. A couple quick grants. Next month we should be bringing, if I get the grant agreement from the state, the FBIP for Charles Springs. We'll be working on the floating dock out there at Charles Springs. And it's been about 6 or 8 months since we're awarded, and we're just waiting on the state. They're backed up, but once we get that grant agreement, we'll bring that to you and to the attorney for review. The Sun Trail, we awarded last meeting to Kurtz Construction, and so we're looking at starting that next month. February 12th is I think the date we're looking at for the notice to proceed, and we'll get underway there. Looking forward to that project. Keep in mind, we got a lot of events coming up at the Coliseum and the Fairgrounds. Strawberry Festival is a 2 or 3 day event. We have the fair. Tabernacle is hosting a state basketball tournament. Big bicycle festival in April. A new event, a Southeast Regional weightlifting tournament that Coach Marcy at the high school is putting on. It's like some Olympic qualifiers that a couple people that are trying to qualify for the Olympics can lift there and get enough points to get in. So pretty big event, pretty neat, and a possibility for future events to come here as well. The Coliseum, we started renovations in the lobby of the Coliseum. We're moving into the bathrooms, the restrooms there, kind of coordinating that with Mark in the building department and John at our office. So that's the floor. We started there with the floor, and going to move into the restroom. So that's looking good. I think that was all I had. Just remind you too, I think you should have got an invitation. If you didn't, the city and Heritage Park and Gardens, the Friends, should have sent out an invite to the Chamber Mixer this Thursday at 5:30. So if you get a chance, we participated with the city and the Friends on that project over there and assisted with that. So anyway, proud of that.
Is that for Mr. Don Allen, the culinary thing? Or is it just
That's a
the whole
separate
venue?
one, I believe.
No, that one, it's Don Allen Cultural Workshop. Former city councilman and the 406. So.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Chairman, because I was just going to, I know Mr. Ford didn't mean to say Don Hale last week, but it's Don Allen.
Correct.
Yeah, no, but I did want everybody to be very much aware of this and
Yes, sir.
and what he gave to our community.
Don Hale's cooking is not that great.
No, unless you like ramen noodles.
What day?
Thursday at 5:30.
18th at 5:30.
At Heritage Park there in the back.
And is there a car show this weekend at the Coliseum, I was told?
The
possibly?
20th, yeah, it will be this. It had to be moved from, I think, the 6th. They had a weather day, so it is this weekend.
Gotcha.
Yep. That's all I had. If y'all have any questions for me.
Any questions for Mr. Fury?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks,
Good work.
Thank you, sir. Any other staff items? Any other staff? Commissioner items? Any commissioner items? Yeah, moving right along. County Attorney, Mr. Morrison, any
Thank you.
items?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just one thing to update the board on. Last week, I got served with a notice of intent to sue from CS, who's a child, who's demanding $200,000 in damages for 6 stitches that he got while riding his bike near it's not the county, but the school board's landscaping equipment, but they sent it to us as well. It's been forwarded to our liability carrier. I don't anticipate we'll hear about it again. I just didn't want you not to know if it comes up. If you got any questions, feel free to ask.
Fair enough.
But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morrison. General business. We will start with item 5 since it precedes 15. So item 5.
5 or 8?
I'm sorry, 8,
8.
9, 10. Item number 8. Approval of task order with Locklear & Associates Professional Engineering Services associated with evaluating future collection and transportation options. Budget impact $50,000 to be funded from solid waste budget.
Appreciate pulling that, Mr. Chairman. Want to bring y'all up to speed on kind of our thought process. We are, as y'all recall, we had a workshop several months back on solid waste and other things, and we talked about kind of the game plan moving forward. But we put in some budget numbers for compactors and things. What we want to do is study the game plan on how we move forward. We've got a couple more years left on our current contract. We want to position ourselves so we can be ready to pivot, transition, or whatever we need to do later. This study will help us do that, looking at quantities of debris or quantities of, got debris on my head.
How could you not?
Quantities of our collection material, our garbage, making sure we're making the right choice on what direction to go with that. We've got to the Welborn site. We have another task order on that, but we want to do this study first. The Welborn site, we bought the property several years ago to develop that, and maybe look at two separate things. I just want to mention that while I'm talking about it. But on the Welborn site, that may be the right place to transition into doing something different. So just want to give you an update on what the backstory is on that, also for the public too, so they're aware too. But the idea is so we can study kind of the game plan, how to move forward, getting ready so it doesn't happen the same way it's done in the past. We need to plan ahead.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner White.
Mr. Scott, is that like an A to Z evaluation of the whole garbage thing?
Yes, right.
Is what we're doing there?
Right. And John Lockyer is here if you've got any specific questions too. If you,
Yeah. Ms. Locke, you mind coming up? That way you can.
Mr. Chair, John Locklear with Locklear & Associates. If I may respond to that, yeah, the goal here is to look at your projected garbage, rates, and then looking at how we're collecting it, how we could collect it differently, and then basically calculating your cost per ton to collect, haul, and dispose at various potential end spots for the waste, so that we can, or that you can then come armed to, when you have presented different options when this contract, or before this contract ends, you can say, well, A, B, C, and D, and this one is this dollar per ton, this one's this. So you might expect, a scenario where a portion, for example, of the county would make sense to compact and direct haul to a more local disposal facility, and the other half of the county, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense to keep going to the transfer station, compile into a long haul trailer, and then go there. So we're basically looking at route and disposal site optimization. Where should they be? Where's your waste generated and collected? And then where should that go? And what would that cost be under all of the reasonable options that we could expect to see when you start looking forward at the end of this contract of where you could go. So local landfills, ones that are a little further away, looking at different rates and what's the cost to haul, and then looking at the impact of compactors. So it really is a soup to nuts analysis, so we can boil it down to $1 per ton. And that's really the best metric in solid waste management, is what is the, the collection, handling, and disposal cost per ton for each option.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Are we going to look at collection sites as well to see what the efficiency is, or do
Correct.
we have too many?
Correct.
The whole
Correct.
thing?
Yes,
Yeah.
and are there better locations? Are there some that are redundant that we
Some
could
need to be
combine?
bigger.
Some could be bigger or better located that makes it easier or better to operate. The Welborn is a good, that one's already pretty tight, and we really couldn't switch to compactors there. We need to go to a bigger facility. So those are the kinds of things we're looking at. Which of the existing sites make sense to keep? Which could be removed? Do we need to add any? Do they need to be modified in terms of their footprint of how we can operate it if we wanted to switch to compactors? All of those things.
Yep.
So.
Mr. I'm glad you asked that, Commissioner. But Mr. Locklear, will you be, when you're doing that study, as Commissioner White said, analyzing each collection site to determine what the tonnage is, I guess, if you will, and the period in which those tons are generated? How are you going to analyze that? Are you going to have, logistically, I know it's going to be hard because there's only one set of scales. So, are you going to have those trucks empty, go away, and start over? I just want to get my head right around how you're going to do that, because I don't want the numbers to be, if you do that if you say, hey, go to 3 sites and then come away, well, how do you know?
I think that's a great point. I think we have to look individually at each site and not extrapolate based on 1 or 2 or 3. I think you got to look at each one because they're all very different. I don't know that weighing and doing all of that is really realistic in terms of your operations. I think it could be a visual. This 40-yarder is 50% full after this many days, and see how that stacks up week after week after week for a month or so we can get an idea that we're running roughly, because we can estimate based on the volume.
How are you going to know if there's 10 cans in a collection site? Obviously, there are some cans that are going to have a preference by
Sure.
the person disposing, the first can or the last
Sure.
can. So those are going to fill up faster than, say, the third.
That's true.
So how to have a true picture, I don't see any other way you do it other than wait I mean, logistically, that'll be expensive.
It will be difficult. We could do it that way. I haven't really gotten to Dennis on how we want to, how much we might want to impact operations. Can he handle, does he have the staff to do what you're describing? Or can we just go on a visual volume base of each can? I mean, that might, and how many times do we dump that can? I mean, it could be as simple as that, or it could be weighing.
I think yardage is the way you're going to have to go.
That's probably the way I would recommend, just from logistics. But if we can come up with a plan that's reasonable and doable, then I can bring that back to you and say we're gonna measure it. But I think it's going to be a yardage visual.
And that may be the case. I just want to make sure our data's pretty strong, because if we're talking about putting in compactors here and there and spending the money, you want to make sure you're putting it in
Sure.
where the most trash, or start at the most trash and work your way down.
Sure.
In worst case scenario.
And we could do some spot checks, use a visual approach, and then weigh and sort of get an idea, sense of, how close are we? Because we're going to use an assumed density of waste, and how much does that weigh per, this 40 yarders, this full, and how close are we?
So are you going to have the attendance monitored?
I think that's probably the best way to do it. Since
The number of cans and how often they were dumped, at what
frequency
point
of dumping, how full were they, right?
Just run a daily log on.
Daily log at every site for every can, basically, yeah. That's the most accurate way to do it without measuring and weighing every single can, which is pretty tough labor-wise to do. So that's what I would recommend to you.
Okay. I'm just curious to see if you'd put any thought in how you're going.
It comes down to the realistic, manpower to do what you can reasonably do and still not interrupt service or, impact how it's picked up and how frequently and all that. So typically the way we do it is visual, unless it is at a facility that has a scale, obviously, but that's not the case here. So.
Could we weigh a few cans just to see?
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. We do some spot checks and, make sure we're on target with our estimate.
We're paying by the ton to get rid of it.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, we could do that. We could come up with a system where we have a certain number of checks with the scale on our visual numbers, making sure we're,
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to, do you guys have mobile scales that you can use?
We could rent a mobile scale,
Yeah.
but with so many sites, I mean, you could rent
for
a
spot checking, I'm thinking. Like
Yeah, you
a
could do
day's
that.
worth or something, yeah.
You could, yeah. We could rent it for a week or so and just rotate it across the sites. Could do it that way. I'll check into the costs of that. And if we can,
I mean, if Commissioner Hale's a good point. So if you were to do that for rent it for 2 weeks and do one or two cycles
Sure.
through each, and maybe you follow the garbage truck around and, hey, and then, I'll meet you at the next site.
Yeah.
I'll meet you at the next site and do that once or twice and then do the visual.
That'd give you a pretty
more
good
accurate
yeah,
average, if you
that would give
will.
you a little more oomph behind your visual. Sure,
Yep.
we could do that.
Anyway, just curiosity. And then the other thing in here, I talked to you about this before. I didn't see a timeline, 90, 120 days.
That's what I think it'll take.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I would just ask that you
I'll
put that
revise.
in there.
I will.
I mean, we don't need this lingering around for 12 months.
No, in fact, I think the time left on your contract is about 2.5 years,
2.5, okay.
2 years, 4 months, something like that. So if you take 3 or 4 months to do this and then you chew on that information, so now you're coming up on times where you need to be making decisions and conversations with other entities so that
Negotiations.
what your options are, by the time. I would think you'd want to be ready to go with your choice probably a year before the contract ends, so you're not in that position you were in. And we need to be mindful too, Mr. Scott and I are looking at, there are some, and we can get with the attorney, there are some triggers in the contract that it automatically renews at a certain time for another 5 years, so we need to make sure we don't come up on that. But that's getting much further. That's over a year away. But at any rate, we need to
Hope somebody's got that
Thinking about
earmarked.
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that all?
Yes, sir.
All right,
I think
thank
anybody
you.
else?
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Locklear. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this particular item? All right. See none. Any questions, comments, concerns from the board, or
No.
do I see a motion?
So move.
A motion by Commissioner Perkins,
Second.
second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Number 9, authorization to allocate local assistance and tribal consistency funds in the amount of $100,000 for economic development purposes and activities, budget impact none. Mr. Scott, would you explain
Sure.
a little bit about what that is?
The funds that we're talking about, so a total of $100,000, two $50,000 payments. This came in conjunction with the ARPA funds we got from the federal government. What the clerk's office needs us to allocate where we want to put those for use. They can be used for any general governmental purposes. Because we've got the upcoming cost of land clearing and such out of the catalyst site, I thought economic development would be a good place for that. We don't have to identify what specific we're going to do with it. It'd be a very general term, but their budget really isn't handled to cover a lot of those costs like that. So that's my thought process, and I'd be glad to answer any other questions that the board has.
No, sir. I mean, I agree with that. I think that's a good place because sometimes there's incidentals or, that's development. So sometimes some expenses arise that you don't know during budget workshops. So kind of surprised we need to do this. Where's the money? So I'm good with it. But if any of the other commissioners have any questions, comments for Mr. Scott?
I think it's a great idea. I've sat in with Mr. Norris and all, and there's things that pop up from time to time, borings, this, that. I mean, it speeds the process along to have that fund sitting there in his department so that can be done in a,
Access to program.
yeah,
For sure.
for a quicker, sometimes it's a quick turnaround you need, and
Right.
you have to go through the whole process sometimes. It takes too long. So I'm in agreement.
Okay. Thank you. With that being said, any other commissioners got any questions?
I'm in agreement too, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I mean, that's fun that we didn't have to conjure up, so and it's a good place to put it.
That's right.
And I think we have great return by using that area.
Okay, so I got a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perkins, second by Commissioner White. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. What's my other number I said? 10. Number 10. Authorization to increase the credit limit of credit cards for economic development, extension, fire rescue, library, maintenance, and Parks and Recreation Department. The increase is within spending authority per the county's purchasing policy. So under item 10, Mr. Scott, the way that I read it, and the way that I've talked to you about this, I understand it is oftentimes in today's world, these limits are being hit prior to finance being able to pay them. So purchasing and using those cards becomes stagnant until obviously we receive the bill and pay it off. So this should alleviate some of that stagnation, if you will, I guess, if that's a word.
Yeah. Biggest thing is the flow. All the bills get paid on a timely manner. It's just sometimes, I'll pick on economic development as an example. They've got ongoing charges because of the marketing piece they do with the vendor they use. If they've got to go to a conference or whatever, or have another expenditure, they got to pay. They got running two departments on $5,000 now. You can't get there from here. For example, there's a class that Jimmy went to back several months ago. Chris had to go stand at the door of the clerk's office, make sure they got paid before you got on the plane to leave. I mean, that's exaggerating a little bit, but we just got to be able to do business. All the spending is still spent just like we do anything else through the spending authority. It's just simply raising the amount on the credit card. It's got to be within the budget. It's got to be in the spending authority. It's just a matter of timing.
I understand. Any commissioners have any questions in regards to item number 10?
None.
No, sir.
Thank you. Do I see a motion to approve?
Motion.
I have a
So
motion by
moved.
Commissioner
Second.
Mobley, second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. General business, item number 15. Discuss with possible board action roadside litter pickup. Mr. Scott.
As you recall, we've been talking about litter is a very popular thing to do this time of year. The grass dies and it's more visible inside the road. We get as many phone calls about litter as we do about debris lately. The idea is we got really three choices. We can have one crew of 4 men if we choose to. Actually, we have 4 choices, I'm sorry. We have one crew of 4 men. We can have two crews, north and south of 4 men. We can contract it out or do nothing. Last time we bid it out, it was like $342,000. That's back in 2001. Prices have gone up since then, obviously, especially labor cost. So that number I would project to be higher. If we had a one-man crew, 4 men at $14 an hour for personnel, it could be a lady, at $14 an hour, which is the reason we picked 14 is because later this year it'll be bump up again the minimum wage. That always is a factor. It'd be $182,000 for a full year. Because we're partway through the year, it wouldn't be that much, but that's a full year cost. It'd be $182,000 for a 4-man crew. Includes benefits and everything. We've got trailers already, and I think we've got enough trucks to make that work currently.
So, Mr. Scott, under the hiring of the crews,
Right.
do those numbers include equipment? I heard you just say you have trucks and trailers.
We have trailers already available and trucks available.
So this will
right
be
now.
walking crews?
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner White.
Mr. Scott, I spoke to you about this, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I asked about and I ain't trying to make nobody mad here with the employees, but with the right-of-way crews and the mowing crews, and especially since all the storm damages came through and they've kind of cleaned up our right-of-ways for us a lot. What's the chances of using some of those people this time of year? I mean, I realize we still got a full-time problem here,
Right.
but I'm just saying in the temporary, can we do something like that?
We are using some of those guys now, like on Fridays especially, that are not assigned things. And the trim crews are still trimming, but we could use some of those guys, but not effectively. Like I said, some of the guys are working Fridays now that want to work an extra day. They work 4 10s, so they work Friday on overtime. A lot of times the lower paid employees that choose to do that. But we've got, I think 2 to 4 guys every week doing that, plus inmates working on that also. So sometimes inmates are available, sometimes they're not. So we're still doing that on Fridays, but it's just not enough to keep up.
Well, in your opinion, I don't know that we need 2 full-time crews year-round, but
Right.
this time of year, you certainly do, I
Right.
would think. I don't know how you work that or what you do, but I would like to advertise for bids too, just to see
Okay.
what that costs.
Okay.
That's my thinking anyway.
Now, when we bid it before, bid came back as a 6-man crew, and they worked year-round. You want to do year-round or a number of, I know we bid out before, like 3 passes. To me, it's got to be year-round. It can't be, I mean, you could do partial years, but the litter still blows out of the vehicles year-round.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Hill.
just hearing you guys speak and talk about this, and obviously we've all been talking about it, but maybe if it was a 6-month, maybe if it was like the last 3 months and the first 3 months of the year, and it was done consistently, maybe the other 6 months wouldn't be so bad, because, typically it's not being done hardly at all.
Right.
But that's the months that we all see it, when fall comes, winter comes, things die back, et cetera, and then through the spring. But I just don't know if someone would do one for 6 months, if you could get a contract like that, or if it would have to be a yearly thing. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know those discussions you've had or haven't had.
When we bid it, well, certainly we could do it both ways.
That's
so
what
that-
I was going to suggest, get a 6-month bid and a 12-month bid.
Right. just see how it goes. And
Yes, sir. Commissioner Perkins.
Ms. Scott, on these inmates, are we just getting them from the jail, or can we get those from these other area prisoners?
Prison also. We've actually got, we've got one crew, we've got 2 inmates, another crew, we've got 2 jail inmates. And then on Fridays, we work the 2 inmates with employees also. On another crew, there's an average of 3 correctional inmates. Another crew has 3 inmates also. And some of those are picking up litter now. Part of them working on debris. Helping the trim crews with LT on his guys. Got 2 of the inmate crews working on the LT's crews, doing trimming and picking up limbs and things.
So it's all areas from like Lake City to Jasper, those areas there?
They're from Suwannee County CI.
Well, I've been after, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, sir. Go ahead.
I've been after this for a while. I think the only resolution to, if you want to keep the roads clean, is going to be, you're going to hire somebody to do it full-time, or it's just, I don't think it's going to get done. I don't think the inmate thing, yeah, it's hit and miss, but it's not
Consistency.
not consistent. Yeah.
Right. If we can, your choice, we can certainly bid it, year-round part, do it 6 months. We can start with 1 crew of our employees, really y'all's choice.
Can we reach out to some of our neighbors and see what they're doing?
Sure.
And just ask, like, hey, how are y'all handling this? And just see if they have any ideas. I mean, surely Suwannee County's not the only one that faces this.
Well, I talked to Columbia County about it. I don't know, it was probably a year or 2 years ago. I don't remember now, time flies. But they're mowing, they hire their mowing done, and they contract the garbage pickup, if memory serves me correct, with the mowing crew that they hire on a private basis to do that. And I'm not sure if they're still doing that.
Right. I know that, I want to say one of the last times we bid it, it was for mowing and litter pickup. And then that company went out of business.
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Norris, apparently you know something about garbage.
I deal with it a lot. And you know why? Because people care. All these guys care, we care, but and I know you guys are looking at doing this, so I just wanted to let you know why you're making that decision. And I think Mr. Scott was aware of this, but we had someone contact us that was looking at bringing a business to town. And once they came to town, they contacted me and said that there's no way they would move their business here because of all the garbage that they saw on the side of the road. And if we didn't care any more about our community than that, then they didn't want to locate here. So it is a problem. Others see that and they're judging us because of the litter that we see on the side of the road. So that's a company that is not going to come here because our ditches have litter. Seems to me like that could be an easy way for us to, bring business to town. And I know it costs money, and that you guys have to make those decisions. But businesses notice, and people that want to move here, we all love Suwannee County, but.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, you bring up a good point, but I don't think it's that our citizens care any less about their county than any other citizens. I think it comes to what the other counties are doing to keep it up, pick it up. So
no, absolutely. I mean,
obviously it
I
just
clean
comes
up
down to money and how to pick it up, because it's in every county. And
No, it is. It's everywhere. It's just
everywhere.
all I'm saying is I think there's other communities that may be addressing it,
Right.
and right now we haven't addressed it yet.
Right.
But when others notice and kind of point it out to you, before I mow every week, I have to take a bag and clean my ditches myself. That's just part of the process, right? But I was just letting others notice. So we all notice, and we all care. We love Suwannee County. So, but hey, if these guys can run in front of the mowers before they mow, but I do think it's I don't know how you do it just part-time. I don't know. But anyway, that's your
$100,000 here we
decision.
can use, we just put in economic.
What, sir? Do I need to call Chris, or what'd you
I said
say?
we got $100,000 here we can use to put towards it. We just put in economic development. That would help change that business's mind.
Yeah, no.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Locklear, when you do your evaluation, are you looking at the door-to-door pickup part of that garbage deal, or is there any, I mean, are you just evaluating tonnage and stuff?
Mr. Chair, we were not looking at universal collection, if that's what you're referring to. I don't think you have the population density outside of Live Oak to really get anybody interested in that. It's just too much space in between each home. But I can tell you, I think I work for almost all your neighbors, and every county has the same struggle. You either pay for it, you're a private contractor, and that costs a lot of money, and that comes out of taxes. You get prison inmates, but that's very spotty, and it's, you've tried it, and that has its problems. Some counties do an incentive for businesses where they get a sign that says, we cleaned up this street, and it's their responsibility. Alachua does that, for example. A certain number of times a year, that entity is responsible for cleaning up that part of the highway. And then, the other thing is trying to change behavior before it gets on the ground. I don't know if you've been up in North Carolina, South Carolina, you'll see a sign of $1,000 fine for littering, or something like that. It's pretty hefty. I don't know how much that really curbs it, but those are really the only options that I've seen any of your neighbors use are those combinations. And most smaller counties don't have the funds to privatize it and be a constant pickup.
The only reason I ask that is because it ties into all the garbage that's on the side of the road is from hauling it. Most of it from
The majority is.
the collection side. So if you could cut that out.
I mean, you could look at how it's hauled, and then can you get some covers for the trucks, and we can look into that if there are pros and cons to both.
No, he's talking about the citizens.
Oh, the citizen hauling, yeah.
That's where a lot of the garbage is coming from.
But we have those signs he's talking about, $500.
Yeah, you do? Okay, so,
we have
yeah.
those, everywhere.
Yeah.
I guess, from what I'm hearing, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I think what we need to look at is kind of where you're saying, do we hire someone out? Do we do contract labor to do this, and what does that number look like? Or do we hire our own crews that do that the majority of the time, but we also have their labor services that we can use in other departments and other places throughout Public Works or whatever as needed? Again, I don't know how that number looks versus insurance, workers' comp, payroll, versus contracting it out and things of that nature. We just need to see that.
So I guess what I'm hearing, Mr. Scott, is can you, number one, check with our neighbors and see what they're doing maybe, and then number two, I guess you bring it back after talking to them, and either we bid it like y'all talked about for a 6-month or 12-month contract. You're still talking about, this is a long month, so it'll be February's meeting before we.
Well, and again, I know we're trying to address the trash we have now, but I think we need to take care of it in the future moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's our ultimate goal.
It's a long-term problem, but
right.
My thing is, so when the mowers crank up in April, May, we either we get it up between now and when the mowers start, or it looks worse.
So I heard one of y'all asked a while ago, and you said these were crews that were on
Thank you, Mr.
foot.
Locklear.
I'm sorry, on foot walking. Do we look at it like, okay, is it something we hire and we get a couple of 4-wheelers that can cover more ground quickly, because walking, you can only cover so much ground in a day. A 4-wheeler or a gator, side-by-side, whatever you want to call them, they cover much more ground.
I know that's been looked at in the past, and from the numbers I saw, it's about $20,000 a piece. By the time you do that, part of my concern with some of our, take 49 as an example. Okay, you got nice wide, ditches and areas to run it up and down. You take Mitchell Road, and you turn around, all of a sudden you get run over because somebody's running 80 miles an hour.
Different piece of equipment for different areas, I guess, right. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the answer. We just need numbers, I guess.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's my point on privatize it, bid it out. I mean, then you lessen that liability of
Right.
a county worker getting injured if anybody happens to get injured.
Right.
To me, it's always better to go to the private sector if you can. May not be able to. We tried it before. The company that was a low bidder on it didn't even, after they won the bid, just didn't even respond or went out of business, whatever the case was. But
I remember that.
so I don't know if we can get it that way. I'd sure like to see it that way. But if we can't, you know, I'm all for hiring people and getting it done.
Okay.
Well, can we, I guess, board, do you want to authorize Mr. Scott to go ahead and put it out to bid?
Yes, yes.
As soon as possible, and then in the meantime, be asking our neighbors what they're doing?
Sure.
So that when those bids do come back, you know, can you look at how we bid it last time and bid it, is it, you know, does anybody recall those specs, bid it the same way?
It wasn't bad on the specs, I don't think, on what he had there.
It wasn't dirt roads, though, was it?
No.
No,
just
paved
asphalt.
roads.
Asphalt.
Yep.
So can we, any questions?
No, we can bid it, and in the meantime, check, see what neighbors are doing the next couple of days and do that, turn that around quick, get out there and advertise it and, you know, bid it both ways, part-time, full-time, just see what we get.
Did we bid it, how did we bid it last time? Was it by the mile, or was it lump sum, or was it?
It was a lump, I think it was a lump sum. I think they calculated it by the mile, but it came back to us as a lump sum bid.
Calculated by how many paved road
Yeah, it was,
miles?
they give them the mileage on the paved roads, as I remember, and that's what they used to do their bid off of, was the mileage of the paved roads that
That's what I
the
remember.
county.
Yeah, I would like to see it by the mile. So if you say, hey, we need these, and these roads done, and that is X amount of miles, we kind of know what kind of money you're looking at to go pick up any particular road or roads.
I did see some calculations in the documentation that we had in the past that, you know, was broke down by acre, which,
Yeah,
Or just ask our neighbors how they're bidding it.
Right.
If they're bidding it,
right,
look at their, you know, ask them to see their specs, and
maybe we get somebody tag
Don't
on
have to
their
reinvent
bid.
the wheel here.
yeah.
You
don't
know,
have
but
to-
a mile, see, you got 49, it's real wide ditches, and you got
That's
some
why
roads
some of
that
them are doing by the
narrow.
acre.
But I mean, if you're in that kind of business, surely you can average what it is.
Right.
I mean, you can look at 49, you know how long it is, you know how wide it is. You can look at Mitchell Road and see how wide it, I mean, if you're a contractor, that's what I would be looking at, is I would be figuring that on my own, you know. But
That's why a
here's-
lot of them are bidding it by the acre, because it's that width,
Yeah.
that they're, and the length. But anyway, would you mind checking with our
We'll work on
neighbors, and let's not get crazy and try to reinvent the wheel?
Sure.
I mean, if that's what they're doing, and they're privatizing it, and that they have their own set of specs, and they've been doing it that way, I don't know why, if they'll let us just use their specs and bid it that way. Obviously, it's working for them. They've privatized it for a long time.
Sound like game plan, thank you.
Thank you. Does he need a motion or just consensus, Mr. Attorney?
Since we're going to put out an RFP motion.
Okay. So,
So move.
a motion by Commissioner Perkins.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. 16, any additional agenda items? Mr. Scott, staff? None. Administrator's comments.
Yes, sir. Just wanted to touch on some few things that were brought up last meeting, and just wanted to add a little clarity on some of that. Just kind of hit a 30,000-foot view. Last meeting, we talked a little bit about salary increases, and when we did I asked the clerk's office to provide some information for that. Basically, the majority of the salary increases were relatively minor increases, kind of doing some adjusting on, give an example, truck driver 3 was making less than a truck driver 1. So we made a few minor adjustments, made a few other adjustments with the, or overall there's quite a few different adjustments because of minimum wage compressions and how long somebody's been there, that sort of thing. The biggest thing that kind of got skewed was promotions. We had increased the department head, or not increased, we changed roles from department people from one level to a department head, also some other promotions within the departments. That's the biggest things that skewed things. Made some other just minor some adjustments on people that should have been compensated a little bit differently in the process. But we looked at it. The overtime is less than it was before, so we're trying to work on that too. But we're not just running wild on raises. We do need to, at some point, circle around to the whole address the compression piece. And I think, again, I'll bring back a task order or something later once we get a better handle on that. But I think bringing an agency in to look at that across the board on what we're paying folks may be helpful. We can choose to do something or choose not to do anything at all, but at least be aware of kind of where the imbalances are. The whole cost of the whole idea of the minimum wage increase is just, it keeps compressing and compressing, and it gets frustrating whenever somebody's been with you a year or longer and new guy comes in, a new gal comes in making the same thing. It's just, but we'll bring that piece back and have other discussions about that later. But the couple other things that were discussed, currently, at least staff does not have any plan to talk about the EOC and anytime soon, maybe at a later point, but we talked about that in a workshop, but after the storm and everything, we just kind of pushed that back off the radar. And want to let y'all know it's wet out there, and water runs downhill, and we've got concerns and issues. We're looking at some culverts that maybe need to be cleaned out and such. With all the debris that we've got laying around, it's complicated some of our flows. We're trying to work with water management on that. Met out on 49 today in an area, and folks got some concerns we need to address as best we can. But unfortunately, sometimes our hands are tied in what we can do when it goes across public or private property. But we do want to address those as best we can. But working on those things. Been busy getting some grants in from the IDEA funds that are out there. Be putting those in this week. There's another round of rural infrastructure grants we'll be applying for. The next round, which is I think 1st of February, those are due. So we got a lot of things going. Tallahassee tomorrow, meeting with some departments, and the next 2 days over there. So a lot going on in our world. So any questions you got for me?
Sir, anybody have any questions for Mr. Scott?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
We'll move along to item, 18? Are we on 18?
Yes, sir.
Board members, inquiries, comments, closing comments. We'll start with Commissioner Mobley.
Lucille Heinrich from Hearthstone Botanical Gardens contacted me, and she wanted to invite everybody out Friday, January the 19th at 10:30 in the morning. They're planting a tree in honor of Arbor Day. She said it won't take about 15 minutes.
What time?
It'll be at 10:30 in the morning.
Is that
On
a Friday?
Friday.
Okay.
That'd be in whoever that.
That'd be in Welborn at the little.
Yeah, out there off of 90.
About the church there, on the dirt road.
Who was that for, Commissioner Moore?
Botanical.
Botanical Gardens.
But, yep,
Yeah,
What's the Hearthstone?
yep.
yeah.
Anything else, Commissioner
it.
Mobley? Commissioner Perkins?
Great to be here for the meeting today. Good meeting. Thank God for Mandy and Mr. Scott putting together a great packet for us tonight, and all the departments doing a wonderful job. And also with that, Mr. Scott, look at road. I just thinking about was 80th Terrace. They get a call, said the road was washed out real bad. They got ruts in the road. They can't get in and out there. Prepare for the storm, for the cold weathers. As Commissioner White said, we're going to have 9 hours of hard freeze. So prepare your pipes. Any bust pipes, call me, I'm a plumber.
Well, solicitation there.
I didn't hear nothing.
That's funny.
Oh, and also, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Chief Hand, for being at the parade on yesterday, and the fire department did an awesome job and rode with the chief and had a nice MLK parade on yesterday.
Did you throw out candy or did you eat it all?
Yes, sir. Then we do. We did it.
All right, good deal. Commissioner Hale.
Just want to say thank you to the employees. You know, every meeting we try to bring this up and you know, pay our respects for them because they work really hard out there. And obviously with the rain that we're talking about and the weather and all, they have been working overtime, and I appreciate them, all departments. I think I've spoken to just about everyone over the last couple of weeks. And thank you to our staff inside as well for preparing all this as they do. And look forward to getting over to Tallahassee tomorrow and representing Suwannee County and beating on some doors and trying to get some more funds for us over there.
Yes.
So thank you. That's it. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Hale. Commissioner White.
Just kind of echo what everybody else has got, but I'm just going to say this on the whole wage thing again. I'm a private sector business guy. I can tell you what my payroll is, and I can tell you that probably my average pay now has risen to about $19 an hour, and that's on the private side. So when you go to complaining about what you're paying people, you might want to ask some of the private people what they're paying. So just a thought. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner White. I just echo everything everyone else said. Like, I'm not a plumber, but like Commissioner Perkins says, you better leave your pipes dripping. If they bust, don't call me. I can fix mine, but I'm not in the business of fixing others. At any rate, Botanical Gardens, 5:30 on the 18th.
No, 10:30.
I mean, 10:30.
Don Allen.
5:30 on the 18th,
Yep.
5:30 p.m. on the 18th, Heritage Park and Gardens. That's this Thursday
Right.
afternoon. And then 10:30 on Friday morning, Botanical Gardens. But to follow that up, to think that we only meet twice a month, as sometimes can be the perception out there, that's far from it. I mean, as Commissioner Hale said, tomorrow's legislative days in Tallahassee. I'm personally not going, but I know some of you are. Some of our staff are going. To follow that up, 24th and 25th of next week is Rural County Days, in which I believe our entire board will be there, as we were last year, to promote Suwannee County. Many legislators and senators, representatives, and their staff come through those and see our booth. It's open to the public. And every rural county is there soliciting in their county with, I mean, you have from Tupelo honey in Jackson County to fresh seafood down in Wakulla, and you know, everyone's kind of showcasing what their county's known for. So a really cool event. And then just to brag on you guys, I mean, I'm just proud to serve on a board with 4 other guys that I know deeply care about this county and the well-being of its citizens and the direction that it's going. So thank y'all for being who you are and what you are to this county, and I'm grateful for you. So I appreciate that. But with all that, all I need is a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one more date to throw out there. We're having our auction for our equipment, our slightly used equipment. There'll be inspections on Friday afternoon. We've got it down at the airport. We got signs to guide people down that way. Just past the fire rescue's operation. 9 o'clock on Friday, they can start reviewing the equipment. And then on Saturday is the auction beginning at 9.
Well, that is one event I hope you do not see a commissioner at.
Well, I was going to ask, could I go ahead and get a number?
No. You're not allowed to purchase anything.
We'll let the attorney answer that question for you.
Yes, that would be correct. Nor any other county employee.
So hopefully you guys do not attend that. At any rate.
Just look it on.
Yeah, just observing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But, you know, and too, I'm glad that Commissioner White simply said is, you know, in that private sector I mean, it's hard to get folks to work for under $19 to $20 an hour. It's hard to find a carpenter. I got to go over $20 an hour, get a carpenter, and then you're not getting a grade A one at that.
Yes, sir. It's definitely tough out there.
Yeah. And to retain people now, you got to pay them.
I'm grateful for the employees that we've been beneficial to have and keep.
Sure.
Very grateful. So anybody else? All needs a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner White. Second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
I'm just giving you